was a settler with a gun nearby. There were some police. I was very tired, and my Arabic was not very good, especially when I'm stressed. And so I didn't understand what he was doing. I thought he was telling me the settlers, the army is following you, but he was saying they had come. And so I missed that. And then he was blindfolded and taken to a military base. We don't even know exactly where. We're fortunate he was released a few hours later. They just let you go in the middle of nowhere or in the middle of a settlement sometimes. Some of the other activists are released in the middle of a settlement, which is so unsafe. So he came home that day and he was safe that day, alhamdulillah, but he was so shaken. And, we can't be everywhere that's needed 24/7. And so a day or two later, he decided to leave the Jordan Valley, and he went with his wife and his kids to Tubas, the village that's nearby. And he settled there. And that really that broke my heart, because I'd spent nights with him at his house. We'd been there watching so that he could safely fall asleep for a couple of hours. His sons, I think he was 18 or something. He had talked about wanting to build his home, on the same land in the corner of the cliff. And, they can't even do that because you have to take Israeli permission to build on your own land in Area C, and they'll never give it. So, it was really heartbreaking when he left, and I'm still hoping that he'll return, that I'll go back in a couple of months and be able to meet him again, and he'll come back. But I know a lot of people are trying that to help him and bring others back. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the olive harvest. So that was in October and November, mid-October to mid-November. And I'm sure you all know the olives are so central to survival and to the culture in Palestine. The year before, the Israelis had really damaged the harvest, and it was maybe 30%. And so this year, if it didn't go well, a lot of people wouldn't survive financially. They really needed this. And so we had an amazing number of volunteers. I wasn't there at this time, but we had dozens and dozens of volunteers from around the world, a lot of them from North America. And it was such a beautiful coordinated effort between the different Palestinian communities and the international volunteers. They would pick one olive grove, and many people would gather there and go there together, so that you would do one olive grove at a time and build safety by being together. So it takes a lot longer, but you can do it together and it goes a bit better. But still, every single day, the military would show up within an hour or two, or maybe a few more hours than that. And they would say they would declare it a closed military zone, or they would say, you can't be here. You're not allowed this, that, this, that. But every single day they went right back out there. And even on days where my friends got arrested at these olive harvests and they actually got deported, they were still glad. They were like, the harvest was really good that morning. Alhamdulillah, it was worth it, So every single day they tried to stop it, and every single day we still came back. And there's power in that. The village where our group was based, who had invited us in, Qusra, the military started really bothering them. They said, you will not be allowed to access your olive groves if you don't kick out the international volunteers. They were trying to make their life harder just for accepting our solidarity, just for letting us stay there. But of course, the community was very strong. There's a strong history of resistance in Qusra, and they've continued to welcome us, even though it's hard for us to hear that they're facing consequences just because we're there. But this village, Qusra, like before we went there, it's one of the larger villages, and a lot of people who were living kind of here and there, they kind of came together into this village many decades ago, and it's very large. And it used to have daily attacks by the military, by settlers, and they would chase them. The settlers, they can chase them off. They have the Shabab, they have their rocks, they can chase off the settlers. But the settlers come with the military protecting them. And the military have their guns, and then there's not much we can do, except try to document it, record it, make sure people hear about it. So, that's a few of the things that are happening, but the main point that I wanted to get across is that the Palestinians, the people in the West Bank, and even the people in Gaza, they've never lost hope. They've never stopped working. There's so many people there, whether it's just, I'm just gonna keep my family safe, or I'm gonna keep my village safe, or it's just the whole movement, the whole country. But no one has stopped and no one has given up. And so whenever I feel hopeless or demoralized, I think, what right do I have to be hopeless when they still fight, when they still have hope, when they're still pushing for justice and freedom, liberation every day? how can I abandon them by giving up? And so we have to keep our hope going however we can over here, and we have to keep doing what we can from over here. Every day we can take some action, big or small. We can email someone, we can call a politician, we can, if we're store owners, if we have a restaurant, we can boycott, we can not sell Coca-Cola and boycott products. We can, we can be intentional about these things. We can look into banking, if you're with Scotiabank, consider changing, but we can look into our own lives and say, what effort can I make for Palestine? What sacrifice can I make? What inconvenience can I take on? It's easy to do things that are easy. Sometimes it's difficult, but sometimes, you can show up to a protest, you can show up here, you can do this. But what does it cost you? What is your solidarity costing you? What are you doing for Palestine that is a sacrifice, that is a hardship? Showing up for our deen, our community in times of hardship, it's not meant to be easy or lighthearted or fun. It's a burden, it's a responsibility, and it's effort, and it's hard, and it's sacrifice. So, we ask ourselves, within my life, what sacrifices can I make? Not everyone can go to Palestine. You don't all have to come. But what can I do? What ways can I make my life a bit more inconvenient? It's a bit hard for me, but I can do it. We have the luxury of, I'm not being bombed. I have warmth or air conditioning in the hot weather. I have clothes. I have food. Even if I lose work, I have my parents can take care of me for a little while. I'm very lucky. So what can I do with the luck and the privilege that I have had, that my family has worked for? What can I do? What can I sacrifice to do something for the world, for Palestine? And that's the question I ask myself all the time, every day. And I continue to ask it every day. And we should all be asking ourselves that. What can I do today for Palestine, or for Sudan, or for the Congo, or for just all the suffering? There's so much that we could be doing. And it's so easy to get caught up in living our lives, in our families, in our responsibilities, in our finances. There's so many pressures and stresses just for us to survive here in Canada. But what a privilege it is to be able to survive here in Canada and to fall asleep mostly safely every night. And so what are we doing with that? I guess that's the last thing that I wanted to leave you all with. So yeah, thank you all for listening. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to chat a bit more about that as well. Yeah. Yeah, so you just start by sending an email. So if you look up ISM on like Instagram or something, you can see their website and their email, and you'll just say, I'm interested, and then they'll send you a bunch more information and connect you to folks. Yeah. Yeah, so I was with Faza, but they've sort of merged with a different organization. So it's International Solidarity Movement, ISM. So I think on Instagram it's ISM Palestine. Yeah. Yeah, so I just saw it on social media. Like I hadn't heard about it before. I had wanted to join the Freedom Flotilla that was going. I don't know if you had heard about the ship that was going to try to sail into Gaza, but that didn't work out. So we didn't go there. And then people shifted to this, and they were promoting it on social media. So I just heard about it in last summer, maybe in June or something. And then I just emailed them. I talked to my family a lot, and there were a lot of concerns. My father is here now. They were very worried about me going, but I was very insistent that I wanted to go. And I was lucky that they supported me in going. But yeah, you just reach out to them, and then they can give you a bunch of information about the processes, the costs, and how to cross the border. There's a lot of support for different questions that you might have. Yeah. No, it's in the West Bank. So currently, it used to be in Gaza as well, but since October 7th, you can't get in or out. So now, currently, they're only operating in the West Bank, and a lot of it is in Masafir Yatta, which is near Al Khalil, Hebron, and then Nablus, which is a bit more in the north, and then in the Jordan Valley is currently the different areas. So, but yeah, we're not able to get to Gaza right now. I don't know if things will change, but I would. No. The aid wasn't able to go into Gaza, so we're not able to. Those are different organizations. It's like like doctors are able to go in, and medical professionals and like other kind of official aid can get in. This is not able to help Gaza, but the people in the West Bank are also currently being suffering, right? And so Gaza just had a ceasefire announced today. I don't know if they'll follow through with the ceasefire or not, but the West Bank, nothing is changing, right? So the settlers have gotten worse since October 7th. The checkpoints have like, there's hundreds more of them now than there were before. People are getting arrested a lot more. And so like people were like someone was shot during the olive harvest. There was a young 13-year-old girl who was shot in the village next door to us when I was there. There was an international volunteer who I met, Aisha Noor. She was the Turkish American woman. She was also shot. She was 26 years old. She was a friend of mine. So the West Bank, it's getting worse in the West Bank. They're doing a lot of raids in Jenin, in Tulkarm, in areas where there's refugee camps because sometimes there's resistance that goes there. So they'll lock down a village and you can't get in or out for like days at a time. And they'll destroy some buildings and then the Palestinians will come back and try to rebuild it. So there's still a lot happening in the West Bank, and so it's still really effective to be able to go there and um, yeah, so they called it protective presence. So the idea is to sort of slow down the ethnic cleansing and the help people keep the land. So help them stay on their land and help them access the land. So sometimes if Palestinians go too close to an illegal settlement, the settlers will just attack. But if we go with them, they might not attack. Or they might come and then leave, right? Because they'll talk to us, right? They're a little more exactly right. The international pressure and the cameras, it makes them back off just like a little bit, right? And any bit matters, right? The more of us there are, the better it is, right? The less bold they can be, because yeah. No. I did not. Other people have. I went for the first time only for 2.5 2 weeks, I think. And I had wanted to extend it, but after Aisha Noor got killed, I was really deeply impacted, having been a friend of hers. So I came back. But I'm hoping to go again for a longer time. I kind of just wanted to see what it was like so that I could come back, tell my friends and my other people that I do sort of protest and activism with here, talk to people in Canada to encourage them to go. And then I was hoping to go back again in the summer with more people and more volunteers for a longer time, a month or maybe two. Um, but yeah, the minimum commitment is 2 weeks. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Cool. Huh. Thank you, Uncle. Thank you, Uncle. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for bringing that up, and that's really important. So there's actually a lot of the question for if you didn't hear it was about us volunteers who went there connecting with the ICC, the International Criminal Court, and providing a testimony. So there's actually a lot of volunteers who've been doing that. So we kind of internally organized to connect people to the ICC and the ICJ to provide evidence. So that is happening. I haven't personally done it just because there's people who've seen a lot more than I have, but I might still reach out. Um, yeah, yeah, that's true. So yeah, I personally have not, and maybe that's a good point. Maybe I'll do that later today. Yeah, yeah. No, maybe I'll do that. Thank you so much for suggesting that, Uncle. But I do want to say that lots of volunteers have been doing that, especially the ones who stayed for longer periods of time. Almost all of those who were there have done that, which is really great. Any other questions? Hi. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Yeah. 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 No, I said it at a different place, but yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, so a lot of the economy in Al Quds, as well as in places like Bethlehem, it does rely on tourists, right? And like you said, they're used to thousands of people coming, right? Masjid al Aqsa, the birthplace of Isa alayhi salam, Jesus. There's other places in Hebron. There's a lot of historical sites for Islam and for the other religions as well. So, but in Bethlehem, for example, like it stopped after October 7th. The tourists just stopped, right? Because it's mostly Christians who would go there, and they just stopped coming. And so the people there were really in a difficult position, and I was just giving out money all the time, right? They were like, here, do you want to buy this postcard? I didn't want the postcard, but and I was just like, you can keep the postcard, take the money. But this is their character. They insisted, no, you have to take something. You can't just give me money. You have to take something for it. So there is a huge need, and you don't have to volunteer for anything. Like you said, you can just go and visit and put money directly in people's hands. Meet people, look them in the eyes, and give them money. It doesn't have to be an e-transfer. And like you said, it is quite safe. Like you will see military, and you'll see people with guns around, but they're not pointed at you. You can stay in the Arab quarters of Jerusalem. You can stay in the Palestinian parts of the country. And you can get by. You can see a lot of different things. You can visit Masjid al-Aqsa, as well as other historic sites. Yes, yes. It was stunning. It was breathtaking. It was really very beautiful, very peaceful. I was talking about it at the beginning. Just it's so intricate, the tiles, um, and yeah, it was the most peaceful place that I've ever been, maybe. But even there, like I was telling them earlier that you have to pass the Israeli border police to get in, and they look at your passport and they try to verify that you're Muslim. And they usually have like Druze or like Arab Arab Israeli sort of soldiers who do that protective work. It's usually Muslim Israelis, but it's still like horrible to have guns in such a place, right? So they're still around, but inside the actual Haram al Sharif, inside the actual mosque, they don't come at all. It's just sort of at the edges of the compound. Um, and yeah, I was hoping to share some photos and videos, but we had some technical difficulties. But maybe another time I can send those along as well. But yeah, I went there twice, and I got to. The second time I was able to catch a Jamaat for, I think it was also prayers. So it was really beautiful. Yeah, yeah. Inshallah, inshallah, in maybe in May, if I'm able to save up some money, because I'm trying to save up before I go. Um, Inshallah. And I've got some other friends who will try to come with me. So I'm trying to bring other volunteers from here some people who are involved in the McMaster University encampment might be coming with me. I was there as well, and some other different places, inshallah. The other thing actually that I really wanted to talk about, actually, sorry, before I end this, is as I say, inshallah, I grew up in Kuwait, and over there, if you ask the repair guy, are you gonna fix my AC? He'll say, inshallah, inshallah tomorrow. Maybe it'll happen next week, next month, next year, and you lose the meaning of the word a little bit, But then and I did that, that happened to me. And then when you go to Palestine, especially after. We had Aisha Noor was shot and killed, the volunteer from Turkey, the Turkish American volunteer, which was again just a few days after I arrived. Like when you're parting ways with other volunteers or other Palestinian people, you're going to Jordan Valley, they're going to a different village. When you say goodbye and you say to them, Inshallah, I'll see you in a few days, and you really you feel the meaning of the word Inshallah. If God wills it, I will see you again, because you don't have total control. Like you know that you cannot promise I'll see you tomorrow or day after tomorrow because you don't know what's going to happen to you and you don't know what's going to happen to them. And so you can't just make promises. And you truly, my intention is I will see you tomorrow, but I don't have the full control. So you understand that meaning of inshallah, I will see you tomorrow. It is not in my hands alone. And I never really felt the power and the full weight of that word until I was there. Because it doesn't have the same weight or the same, I guess, or it didn't for me, I should say. But you really feel that you don't have power there. You don't. Things are not totally in your control. Nothing is ever totally in your control, but you know that there's so much that you're just helpless with, right? And I only experienced a fraction of that for 2 weeks, but that's some people's whole lives. They're born into this feeling of um, helplessness, and they resist that in such beautiful and varied ways. There's so many different ways where they refuse to be helpless, and they help each other and they help themselves and they come together. So the community is so strong because they refuse to be helpless and they always have each other and other supports overseas. So I just wanted to leave with that thought and that meaning of what that meant to me. Yeah. Thank you. I think that's all unless there's any other questions. Yeah. No, you don't have to know Arabic at all. So it helps. The more Arabic you speak, the easier it is to communicate with the Palestinians, and you develop better relationships. But most people didn't speak much Arabic, and a lot of people were learning it there. Some volunteers were taking lessons over there. Again, like I was never fluent in Arabic, but growing up in Kuwait, I had some words and phrases, and a lot of it came back. I asked some friends for help before I went. I had some friends translating for me while I was there. A lot of us use Google Translate when we're talking to people who live in the village who don't speak English necessarily. Some people do have some English as well, so it definitely helps to have Arabic. But it's not necessary, and most volunteers, I would say, didn't speak Arabic. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Thank you.
The way I can get your number or something
Yeah, sure.
since
If
you're
you'd like to.
gathering people.
Sure. Yeah.
Inshallah.
Sure. Yeah.
Another time.